Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Let's Paint a Mini. So what I kind of wanted to do is I kind of wanted to step back a little bit. I kind of wanted to maybe hold my horses a little bit with all the minis that I've been painting because I wanted to do more Mansions of Madness, but I've been going through a lot of minis really quickly. So I thought, why don't we just take a little break? Why don't we just slow down a little bit? Let's just take one miniature at a time, kind of like we used to do with the Doom board game. Let's do this. So what I've got here is Akachi Onyele. She came with the expansion Beyond the Threshold, and she's only one of two miniatures. It's her, and I think it's the other guy's name is Wilson Richards or something like that. But I figured that we would go ahead and just, you know, like I said, take our time. Let's use all of our dry brushing techniques that we used to use back in the day. Let's hold our horses with all of the shades and the washes and all that stuff. And why don't we go ahead and just kind of, you know, yeah, just take our time a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the thing that I tend to do with all of my skin tones, or all of my miniatures, is I like to start with the skin tone. Now, Akachi Onyele is very much an African-American woman. I think probably even just straight up African, because I think that she's supposed to be from some kind of tribe there or something. She's kind of some kind of shaman. So yeah, I don't know, maybe she's an immigrant from Africa somewhere. So that's kind of cool. So let's make her dark skinned. So let's use this dark skin color here. All right. Let's get a little bit of paint there. I don't think I'm going to need too much. So one thing that you could probably tell is that we're going back to all of our darker base coats as well. Did a black primer instead of a white primer. All right, and I think that I'm going to go ahead and use my good old handy-dandy medium round brush here. And I'm just going to use that to get all of her skin, basically. I'm not going to concern myself too much with the face. I think I'm just going to go ahead and go over the whole face. I'm not going to worry about the eyes. Right now, at least. Maybe I'll mess with them when I get to the end or something like that, but for now I'm just gonna go ahead and just go over her whole face. Haven't gotten a chance to play Mansions of Madness for the channel again yet. I should probably do that though, because I've been keeping tabs on some of my watch times and that kind of thing, some of my analytics. And there have been some people that have been actually watching for extended periods of time those playthrough videos where my wife and I were playing through the first scenario, which was oh man, Cycle of Eternity, and then the second scenario with my brother as well, Escape from Innsmouth. So maybe I'll get around to doing that in the future, hopefully sooner rather than later, but time will tell. Alright, she does have a lot of skin showing here around her chest. She's wearing very, yeah, sort of tribal robes. Still not as risque as the witches. Oh, those witches. They're silly. She's got a very prominent shoulder here. Let's get her hands. All right, she's just got bare feet here. She's not wearing any shoes. And she's got, as you can see, she's got these kind of anklets on her right leg here, you know, on her ankle. So I'm gonna go around those just 'cause I can. I think that if you don't want to go around them and you just kind of want to do the legs really simply, you can probably get away with doing that, but, you know, like I always say, I like to get some practice in, so, you know, whatever you want to do. Almost done. We just need to do, looks like the back of her arm here and then her hand that's holding the staff. All right. And I think we've got a nice even layer on her skin there. And I forgot to get my little cup of water, so I'm gonna go grab that. I'll be right back. All right, and then after we finish that up, I'm actually going to move on to my dry brush before we do anything more. And I'm going to continue using that dark skin color, and I'm going to use that to dry brush her hair. And that will give her hair just a little bit more depth. You know, a little bit more color variety than just being, you know, flat black. And that way her hair will still look very dark, but won't quite be so visually boring. Just really, really quickly, not going to do anything too special. Yeah, there we go. That just adds a little bit of color variety to her hair. Just a little tiny bit. Okay, so I'm going to rinse off my dry brush, and then we are going to continue using our dry brush. We're going to move on to the highlights of her skin. So now that we used dark skin, we're going to use dark highlights. Very kind of a similar tone of brown, but it's a much lighter shade. You can kind of see there as a level of comparison. You can see that it's just a little bit lighter, and I think that we will use that to dry brush her skin, mostly her face, as well as her hands and her feet, a little bit on her legs and arms, not a whole lot, but we're going to use that to add a little bit of light to her skin tone. Okay, I'm going to take my clean dry brush here. Make sure that it is nice and dry. Why don't we start with the back of her hand? Okay, let's get her face a little bit. Just highlight her face a little tiny bit. Her arms and her fingers. Lighten up her fingers a little bit. We'll get her leg. Okay, and I think that that's about all we're going to do with her skin tone there. I think that that's pretty good, so I'm going to rinse off my dry brush. Next up, we're going to use that same shade of brown. We're going to go ahead and paint that staff that she's holding, because I imagine that staff is just going to be made of a solid wood color, and so let's use this, you know, regular brown color, basically, as her staff. So we'll use the medium round brush that we were using earlier. Let's just go ahead and coat the whole staff here, and we'll go from there. All right, I can't really tell if the top of the staff is just, you know, the wood kind of like bending outward. I think now that I'm looking at it, I think it's supposed to be the same kind of like feathers that these feathers coming off of the side are made of, and we're going to do something nice with those in a little bit. So I'm going to leave the top of the staff the way it is, under the impression that we're going to, yeah, like I said, just do something nice with them. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, so now I'm going to rinse that off. And next up, let's go ahead and get started on the robes. So let's use this violet red color, a little bit of a dark red. It's not quite the same shade as blood red, but it is kind of a, you know, dark-ish red. We're going to use that as a base color for the robe, the robes that she's wearing, as well as the feathers that are coming off of the staff here. And I'm going to use a Citadel small size base brush, just to kind of, you know, knock the whole thing out a little bit more quickly. So let's just go ahead and get started here. You know, I've been kind of quiet for this whole episode. I haven't said a whole lot thus far. I don't really know. I don't know if you guys really like to hear me talk or not, or if you just kind of want to see the miniature get painted. Well, if you want me to talk, I'll go ahead and talk. If you want to listen, you can. Otherwise, you don't have to if you don't want to. But I don't know. My wife and I have been watching some TV shows and stuff lately. You know, we just finished watching. We're out of October now, so it's no longer Halloween. However, we did start watching a Netflix show called The Haunting of Hill House, and it was very, very good. We finished the whole thing, and I was very, very impressed by it. I thought it was very good. It's a kind of a ghost story, kind of a creepy ghost story, about a family that's kind of affected by this haunted house, and it's very, very well told in terms that the story is about the characters and it's not about the scares or the jump scares or anything like that. The characters are actually really fleshed out. The storytelling is really good. The pacing is fantastic. The cinematography is really, really on point. The way that everything is shot and edited, visual aesthetic. Mike Flanagan, who is a director that's made some pretty good movies, actually. I think that he directed kind of a weird sort of niche horror movie a few years ago called Oculus, which is such an interesting movie to me because we watched that and it was okay. But that was such an interesting movie to me because it was actually financed by WWE, I think, the wrestling company, which is just such a weird sort of thing. But yeah, they were kind of going for a weird, non-traditional, trippy horror movie, and it was very visually pleasing. It had great visual aesthetics. I think that Mike Flanagan definitely has an eye for framing and color palettes and that kind of thing with his movies. So, it looked very nice. Later, that same director would go on to make... I don't think that it was produced exclusively for Netflix, but I think it's on Netflix right now, called Hush, which is about a deaf woman who kind of lives in the middle of the woods almost, and then she kind of gets attacked by a crazy robber that sort of harasses... Well, not a robber, but just some crazy dude that harasses and tries to kill her. He directed that movie, and that was pretty interesting. He also made... I know that this one was a Netflix exclusive. It was a Netflix original called Gerald's Game. That was also very good. Up until the end, I would argue. The ending kind of ruined the movie for a lot of people, and I understand why, because it is really, really out of left field and really weird and random, and I don't know how I feel about it, but otherwise the rest of the movie was very, very good. But yeah, Gerald's Game was very good. Yeah, that director... I think he did something else recently, too. Some other recent horror movie that was actually pretty good, and I don't remember what now. Well, anyway. If you get the chance, try The Haunting of Hill House. Very good ghost story, very good character drama, very good horror show. I actually joked on Twitter... Oh, by the way, yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at... my Twitter handle is PaintAMini. So, you can look for me there. But I joked on Twitter that The Haunting of Hill House is what American Horror Story tried to be. Which is, I think I even followed it up with hashtag shots fired. But, I finished American Horror Story back in the day, the first season, that is, and I thought, that was neat. But when I finished The Haunting of Hill House, I was like, that was really good. Really, really good. I mean, it's not the same thing, the shows are very different, but, in terms of just a character drama, involving a sort of, I don't know what you call them, but a family that has kind of, been split apart over the years, moving into a creepy haunted house. And all the things that follow with that. Anyway, yeah, Haunting of Hill House. Good show. You should watch it. Especially if you're a horror fan, which I imagine you're probably something of a slight horror fan if you're watching this video, because if you're watching this video, it's probably because of Mansions of Madness, and if you like Mansions of Madness, you're either really into board games, or you're really into horror, or both. And I would advise you to watch that show. It's very, very good. Good timing. Okay, so now I've got her robes done with that violet red color. That's a very, very nice shade. Very, very evenly coated. I like that. That looks nice. Okay, so I'm going to rinse off my brush. I've got the robe and the feathers now. So now we're going to dry brush a lighter color of red over all of that red that we just did. And we're going to be using my handy-dandy go-to fire red. It's just a nice bright red color. That's all that this is. So I'm going to squeeze some paint out onto my onto my little plastic surface right there. There we go. All right. And let's move on back to our dry brush. And let's do our dry brushing technique for the robes and the feathers. And I think that this will look quite nice. I'll load up some paint onto my brush, wiping off most of it. That's why they call it dry brushing. If you want, I've got a video on my channel. I'll put a link to it in the description below that kind of talks about the specifics of dry brushing, because it's the first real method of doing shading and color layers that I learned growing up. So I thought that it would be a neat sort of first thing for me to teach as a tutorial video. So I'll put a link to that in the description below. But yeah, I love dry brushing because it's just so easy, and you don't need to buy separate, you know, shades and washes and that kind of thing. You can just kind of take a good dry brush and buy a really, really good paint set, and you're off to the races. You can paint pretty much anything. That's the thing. All of my Reaper miniature paints that I use here, all of my Master Series paints, which is what I'm using, by the way, I just bought a giant, you know, $100 Reaper paint set, and yeah, it came with something like 50 paints. So that's how I've got my whole color catalog, color library, however you want to call it. But yeah, all you need to do is get a really good paint set, or you can just buy the paints one at a time. You can do that too. And, you know, some good brushes and a good dry brush, and you can paint anything. This isn't going to be the prettiest or the fanciest. There are definitely a lot of much better painters than I am, for sure. However, I like to do just really simple, accessible paint jobs, and I like to have a little bit of a, you know, positive spin on everything. And I don't want to do, you know, I don't want to get obsessed with all sorts of, you know, the highest quality paint jobs that I can possibly do and all that stuff. I just kind of want to have fun, relax, paint some minis, think about something small, get away from all the big things in the world. There's something about it just makes you feel good. There we go. Now we've got a really, really nice color palette on her robes, on her sleeves. Oh, let's do her feathers. Don't want to forget the feathers. There we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to rinse that brush off. All right, next up, let's have a little bit of fun. Let's take a little bit of a break from all the dry brushing. Let's take a look at some detail work. Nothing too fancy, but if you look at her character art here, her robe, it's got kind of a little bit of a green trim around like her chest here. So I figured, why don't we go ahead and just try to add that a little bit to her chest a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out a nice, not too bright, but a nice bright shade of green here. This is called Jade Green. And I thought that we would use this to just really lightly go over the trimming on her shirt, robes, whatever. Hopefully it doesn't look too bad. I think that we'll be fine. Don't need too much, just a little tiny drop of paint. Just got a little bit of paint on my finger, but that's okay. Just kind of nip that off there. That'll be fine. Okay. And I think we'll kind of do a little bit more of a detailed brush right now. So I'm going to use a small-sized Reaper round brush. Not quite little itty-bitty tiny micro detail, but it's really small. So I think we will use this, and we'll just kind of really lightly kind of go along the trim of this robe here. Hopefully it looks okay. Yeah, there we go. That looks really nice. Yeah. Okay, I really like that. That turned out really good, actually. I suppose I could say it turned out to be good, or it turned out really well. I could be describing either the state of... I could either describe this thing, which is good, or I could describe the verb turning, in this case turning out, as well. A little English lesson for for all you grammar nerds out there. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, again, little tiny thing, but just a little bit to kind of help with the details and all that. Next up, let's continue doing that a little bit. So she's got kind of a yellow thing going along the side of her robe there. Now, I don't really want to try to get up into the, you know, her side, you know, into kind of her rib cage there. So I thought, why don't we just kind of do a little bit of this trimming that comes along the bottom of her robe. Kind of starts up here at the leg slit and kind of comes down around the side and ends here. Why don't we go ahead and use a little bit of a sun yellow for that? I don't have a lot of yellow in this bottle. Let's see if I can get anything out at all. I had a boo-boo with this paint once years ago, and I spilled a whole glob of paint out. I don't know if I've got anything in here. Let's see. Come on. Come on. Anything? Anything? Oh, I don't know. I might need to get more of this. Uh-oh. I don't really want to use the lemon yellow. It's got that's got a little bit more of kind of a pale color to it, and I kind of want a really, really bright, almost mustardy yellow. Oh, there we go. That should be fine. Okay. Let's use that small brush that we were using, and let's get to work here. Let's just get... Yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah, that's just got kind of a little bit of a nice sort of color accent there. That looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to rinse that brush off. I think that's about all that we're going to do with these sort of robe details. And let's kind of go back to just kind of generally touching up all of our details. And you know what? Actually, now that I'm looking at it, we don't have a lot more to do. I'm going to dry brush the staff. I'm going to go over the necklace and the anklets with a little bit of a kind of a bronzy color. And then I might do the eyes, but I might not. I don't know. We'll see how we do. And then that'll be it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my favorite shade of brown, this leather brown color that I haven't used in quite a while. I'm not going to lie. The reason why I haven't used it in quite a while is just because I lost the paint bottle for a while. When my wife and I moved, we I guess when I was putting away all of my paints, I guess I didn't put this one in my paint set, and I lost it for a little while, and I went, oh no. But I found it, so I'm glad that it turned up, because I really, really like this shade a lot. Okay, so I'm going to use my dry brush that we've used time and time again, and we're going to do a couple of things, but first we're going to go ahead and use the dry brush to highlight the staff. And that will brighten up the staff a little bit and kind of hopefully make it look like more of a natural wood color. So we're loading up our dry brush here. All right. There we go. Oh, Leather Brown, I've missed you so much. Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. Yeah, okay, so now I'm going to rinse that dry brush off, and that just gives the staff a little bit of an accent. I really like it. Okay. I don't think it matters what brush we're going to use for this next step right here, but I'm gonna use that medium round brush, whatever, it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to use that leather brown, and these little kind of, I don't really know what they are. They're kind of like fruits, or I think that they're squash. I think that they're like little tiny pieces of squash that are kind of on her staff here. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this leather brown, and I'm just going to use just a solid layer of leather brown, and I think that will about do it with these. Not too bright. But yeah, that just helps to make it stand out a little bit. Yeah, nothing too bright or crazy, but I think that will work just fine. All right, and then next up, yeah, like I said, there's really not much more to do. I'm gonna go ahead and do the anklets, or the anklets and the necklace. And for that, rather than using my antique bronze or antique gold color that I like to use, I'm going to use this ancient bronze. It's got a little bit more of kind of a, I don't know, yeah, more of an orangey kind of look to it than your typical gold color. But yeah, let's use that. And I'm going to use my small size brush here, and I think that will be just fine. So I'm just going to get a little bit of paint onto the tip of my brush, and I'm just going to do the necklace here. There we go. That's got some nice color on there. That's pretty good. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and do the anklets there. And then I think I will go ahead and do the eyes, which I would say if you really don't want to mess with it, you don't have to. But I'm dumb and brave, so I'm gonna try for it. And if it doesn't turn out right, then yeah, oh well, whatever. No harm in trying to do something, especially if it's your own miniature. Take some risks, have some fun. I like to do the eyes, even if half the time they turn out weird. That's okay. What I'm doing with these anklets here too is that you can tell that it's very clearly two different anklets. So I'm actually, rather than just kind of like going over the whole thing, I'm actually trying to go over each anklet individually, and that will hopefully make it look more like, you know, by leaving that black in between each one, it makes it look more like two individual anklets and not just, you know, one piece that's made of a couple of, you know, layers of rings or whatever. There we go. Yeah, that looks nice. Looks really nice. Okay. And then yeah, let's go ahead and let's get brave. And let's get out a little tiny bit of pure white for the eyes. Nothing too much, just a little itty bitty tiny drop. All right, where's my go-to detail brush? Here it is. All right, here's my little itty bitty teeny tiny micro detail brush. It's so small. Okay. And let's use that for the eyes. Let's try not to get too crazy. There we go, there's one eye. All right, and there's her other eye there. Yeah, she's got some actual eyes now. Okay. Rinse that off just a little bit. Okay. Now we're going to go back to some pure black, and we're just going to use that for the pupils, and then we're going to call it with this miniature, and that'll be it. Uh-oh, my paint bottle stopped up. I haven't used my actual bottle of pure black in a little while. Take my little, so this is actually a little like a picture frame hanger thing that you can buy, but I found that it's actually got a really nice grip on it that will also go just deep enough into paint nozzles that I can just kind of poke in there, pull back out really easily. Beautiful. Perfect. Okay. Uh-oh, moving my camera around. There we go. Okay. And now let's just poke the front of her eyes with this black. Just kind of looking to the side a little bit with that stance, that eye. Put the other one to the side. How was that? Can I get close? That's not too bad. That's not too terrible. Let's just leave that the way it is. And I think that that will be just fine. So there you go, everyone. That's Akachi Onyele from the Mansions of Madness expansion, Beyond the Threshold. I'll probably get around to maybe doing Wilson Richards at some point, maybe in the next video or another video after. Maybe we'll go back to using some shades and all that. But I kind of wanted to just go back to doing paint jobs the way that I've traditionally done them for the past several years, which is just, you know, black base coats, single layers, and using dry brushing techniques. And I think that that's worked out pretty well. You can tell that I've been doing this for a little while. So thank you everybody for watching. If you want, you can subscribe to my channel where I'll try to do some more mini painting stuff. Like I said, my wife and I will try to get around to doing another Mansions of Madness playthrough video, so maybe we'll get around to that. You can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Paintamini, so you can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Paintamini. I think that's all the plugging that I want to, throw in for this video. So thank you again for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.